Today we're actually at the Corning Museum of Glass. We're kind of in the behind the scenes area, behind the scenes area, actually. And we're here with Eric Goldschmidt from the museum.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying welcome. We're in his house. We were just talking. So like you, if people come to the Museum of Glass, there's a good chance they've seen you at some point or they will see you. Can you just talk a little bit about what you do here at the museum?
Sure. My title is the Flameworking and Properties of Glass Program Supervisor, and that translates to I supervise our flameworking and science-focused demonstrations. So when folks come to visit, they might see me presenting demonstrations or our staff presenting demonstrations. I also get out into the community doing demonstrations, so I'll go out with our marketing team to different regional events to do demonstrations of flameworking and try to draw some attention back to the museum. Every once in a while, you might catch me on local TV as well. They like to send me out to do demonstrations with the different TV stations as well.
And you travel around quite a bit too, don't you? I mean, not just for the museum, but I mean on your own to kind of explore art and study art and glass. I
do, and that often ties to the museum as well. I am very interested in the history of what I do, the flameworking process. I've been very fortunate that the museum has helped me to get out and do some research in that way, whether it be to Europe or across the U.S. Mm-hmm. I'm also a member of the board of directors of the Glass Art Society, which is sort of our big international guild, if you will, mm-hmm. of glass artists, collectors, educators. So that keeps me pretty active in the international glass world as well.
That's awesome.
Going back to when you were a young lad, what made you interested in glass? Where was that key moment that was like, this is my career, this is my passion, this is my future?
Secret pyro, or?
Yeah.
Well, I probably had a little bit of that in me as well. But I actually got into glass after being a candle maker for a few years. So I built a wholesale candle company with a couple of buddies. I lived up in Vermont before moving out here to the Finger Lakes area. And we built a wholesale candle company that got me into crafting as potential career. And after a few years of the candle thing, I had a buddy move in with me as a roommate who had a couple of years experience flame working glass over a torch. He set up a little studio right in our garage at home. I couldn't resist trying this thing that looked really interesting. Realized I had an aptitude for it pretty quickly. After about a year of working with my friend John just right out of our garage, I started coming here to Corning to take classes. So I would come out here 3-4 times a year. Corning sort of is this mecca of glass making, and in the late 90s, early 2000s, there weren't that many places you could learn. So coming here to the museum to take classes was a huge thing for me. Really opened up my understanding of what was possible with glass, and got professional instruction, and that was a really important launching pad for me.
Now, with the candle making, did you do those really fancy sculpted candles and stuff that's similar to like the art of flame work, or is it?
We didn't do much of that. Okay. Most of what we did were poured, molded candles. Okay. But in the last couple of years that I was with the last maybe year or so that I was with the candle company, we developed a new candle that we would dip multiple layers of colors and white sort of in between the different color layers. And then we took a torch and actually heated through those layers to sort of expose the different layers of color underneath. And that was probably my first exposure to like shaping and doing something with a torch to affect art.
I know it's two different materials, but it seems very ornate in the same manner.
They're very similar. They definitely are. And one thing, we actually ran into trouble with those candles when we first started developing them. When they sat on shelves for a while, the layers started to peel apart. We didn't quite understand what was going on at that point. We adjusted, worked with some different waxes and sorted it out. But since further getting a better understanding of glass and coefficients of thermal expansion, how things expand and contract with temperature change, that led to a revelation that I knew exactly what was going on with the candle stuff. So cool. Yeah, they definitely relate.
Huh, that's cool.
think, and one of the things that's interesting about both of those things you're talking about is there's this collaboration between the art part of you and the science part, because it's not just like, oh, I have this interest in creating something, but you actually, the more you learn about the science part, can you speak to that kind of that dance you have to do there?
Yeah, I don't have a formal background in the sciences at all, but one of the great benefits for my position working here at the museum is how we coordinate with Corning Incorporated. So as we've developed things like an optical fiber demonstration that we're doing for a number of years, I got to work with Corning scientists to really understand what was going on in depth. The same happens with glass formulations and sort of understanding more of the physics and the chemistry behind the glass. I won't pretend like I understand them at the PhD level or anything.
Did not pass chemistry in high school.
It is a huge factor in what I make, just understanding the material that much better. And it puts me in a good position to be able to share that information with our audiences here. So we have the ability to really express more about science through that artistic lens. So it works really well with being able to share information that we want to share here.
Can you talk a little bit about some of those science project or programs that you talked about that you were overseeing?
Yeah, so the main one at this point is our glass breaking demonstration. Yeah. And people come in here, they see this demonstration labeled as glass breaking, and a fairly common comment is, oh, we know how to break glass just fine on our own. But we dive into much more of the physics of it and present it in a really digestible way. We're not using crazy terminology, but we're really sort of helping folks understand what is happening within the material as we change its temperature and change different effects to it. How do we get it to break in different ways? How do we use our control over the physics to control the material? So that's a particularly fun one.
Yeah, because you guys, like, even designing pieces, and this might be completely different, but glass breaking, I've seen them dip it in like water or something to like give the crackle effect around the outside. Is that part of that kind of education, or is that something a little different?
That definitely relates to what we discuss in that demo. The glass breaks with temperature change. It expands as you heat it, it contracts as it cools, and we can
use it as an artistic, right?
Absolutely, yeah. If you take really hot glass and dip it into water, the surface will cool very quickly. It tries to shrink very quickly, so it cracks, and the interior doesn't fall apart as long as that's hot enough, and you can.
That's what I was going to ask. You can control it to a level where it's not going to take home and fall apart completely, right? Unless you drop it on the concrete floor.
That's something we can't help with.
That will break it.
That will break it for sure.
Guaranteed.
Well, and going back to the art and the science combined, I mean, even though you're quite adept at working with glass, it seems it's always changing because of the temperature and all that stuff. So even though you're used to doing a project, do you find that you all have to make adjustments constantly as far as what you might have set out to start and what you end up with? Or
I would like to believe at this point, I've been flame working for almost 29 years now. So for the most part, what I set out to make, I accomplish.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That said, there are often little detours or little design adjustments that happen. I still experiment with the material quite a bit too, and just sort of play with it without much intention, just to sort of feel out new things. But generally at this point, I know what I'm about to make, and I stay on a pretty straight path to that end.
Now in your free time that we all don't have, do you practice art and glass making on your own personally?
I do.
Still outside of work?
I have a studio in my garage at home up in Ithaca, and I spend as much time as I can find in there, which, of course, working full-time for the museum is pretty limited. But cool. I do what I can. And several of our glass makers here at the museum, we have our own personal practices as well. Yep.
Is that something that you almost have to do to even get into the art form? Because it sounded like what you were saying earlier that you had, you started with your candle making business and then moving on to trying out flame working with a roommate who had just moved in, because it sounds to me like that this whole thing might not have happened for you if that moment didn't happen. How easy is it for people who might be interested in flame working? Because to me, it's like you have to just have been super lucky and followed the right path to become this, to get into this specific art. It just seems like a very specific art to get into.
For me personally, it was a very serendipitous sort of thing. A roommate or friend happened to move in as a roommate. I had seen some glass around, didn't have a specific interest in it necessarily, but then seeing my buddy John working with glass right there in our garage, that really drew me in. Most folks nowadays are learning in college. Okay. So what we see most of are kids who are coming out of high school, do have some intent on being an artist, go off to art school and wind up with a 4-year Bachelor of Arts degree with a focus in glass. A lot of folks move on to a master's as well.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Because I only remember like there was shop in high school, you know, and that was like the most artist, or maybe like some kind of painting class, like for at least in my high school. I don't know how your guys. There was definitely no like glass making or that level of artistry.
I think too,
when I went to school,
the knowledge of knowing that there's those like materials and stuff that you can use. Like I went to art school, and glass wasn't discussed or anything.
Yeah.
So like you're very on a straight path, like be a graphic designer, or be a painter, or fine artist. And that opportunity, because living in Corning and around Corning my whole life, it's a very interesting material, and I'm an artist myself, so I am interested in taking class and stuff, and I've been thinking about taking some because I did the, what was it, the flower? Yeah, I can't think. Flower. My wife did the flame throwing.
Flame throwing.
Flame throwing. Flame working.
That was working safer.
That was
it's
a
little
pet
safer.
thing.
You don't know what she does at home.
Yeah, I don't know. That was some picnic you had there, I tell you.
You know, you cook it wrong, she'll throw it at you. So, but yeah, so I think the knowledge for kids is cool to see that there's a increase in colleges and stuff that you can go to. And I wish kind of when I was going through that stage of my life, I would have had a little more knowledge in those different varieties of art you could go
It seems
into.
like one of those, like, if you're not exposed to it, you don't even know.
Yeah,
Like, you're just like,
doesn't
glass
exist.
exists. I don't know how it got here.
Yep.
Somebody made it,
Yep.
but I'll never know who it was.
Yeah.
That's
And if you don't live in Corning, right?
Yeah, that's part of why we love working here, is we get to share that
Yeah.
and get to sort of ignite or work with that spark. So
Yeah.
And glass is one of those things that we're so familiar with in so many different ways that we take it for granted. You know, we don't really think about all the different ways, and they're still discovering obviously different ways to play with it and use it. Can you, going back to the the crafting that you were doing, and then that kind of led to the glass making? What is it about working with glass that you love? What's your favorite part?
it's really challenging, I think, is one of my biggest attractions to it. I enjoy a good challenge, both physical and mental, and glass will challenge you every step of the way. It's a really complex material. It's a really unforgiving material as well. So it is challenging. And also the possibilities of the material are endless. You can make endless functional objects. The options for artistic work are limitless. The ability to use the material to really work with light, which is very unique, I think, to glass as opposed to most other artistic materials where, I mean, you think about painting, you have to sort of mimic what light would do with transparency, but with glass we have transparency, opacity, everything in between. So it really presents you a lot of options with what you can make. I also really enjoy the folks that tend to be drawn to glass making as well. It seems like it draws in some pretty hardy souls that have a sense of adventure, and it is the sort of thing that if you're not passionate about it, you can't give it enough attention to ever get good at it. So it seems like glass circles of folks are really drawn to each other, and it is Yeah, it's sort of a material and process that kind of draws you around the campfire together. So there's a lot of bonding and good community built around it as well.
So you went into flame working, but I'm sure working here and over your career, you've dabbled in other types of glassmaking too. What would be your second favorite?
I do a little bit of glass blowing at the furnace when I get the time and opportunity. I really do enjoy that quite a bit. The first process I was introduced to was flame working, so I sort of went in that direction. But it suits me really well. The different processes in glassmaking are sort of suited to different types of objects that one might make, or different sort of studio environments that you might work in. And flame working works really well for me. I enjoy the possibilities of the furnace. I enjoy the teamwork aspects of that. But I also like the intimacy of my flame working studio. I like to have the material right in my fingertips. And so that works really well for me. There are times that designs that I have in mind make more sense to make at the furnace if I want to grow the scale a bit more, or work with something that's thicker and heavier. But most of my design ideas sort of fit in the lane of what makes sense to flame work. So I tend to do that. Cold working, I do very little of. That tends to be fairly tedious for me, grinding and polishing and that end of glass making. There are other folks who have a better head for that. So it seems like flame working was the right place.
You
for
want
me
it
to
right
land.
in your hands.
Yeah.
Touching it.
Yeah.
Did when you first started out? So I did the flame working. I made a pendant here as well, which is a lot of fun. When you're not around fire a lot, the flame is quite intimidating at first, and you're like, they keep telling me like, you got to move your hands closer. I'm like, I don't want to be set on fire.
Singeing your finger hairs.
He had a beard before. But
Was that something you were always just comfortable with, or did that take a bit of like getting used to as well?
I got comfortable with it pretty quickly. I really don't remember a time where I wasn't comfortable. And we get little things all the time.
You learn your lesson, Quinn.
You learn pretty quickly that one first good burn is enough of a lesson for most folks. And you get used to that working environment also. Just like working in your own kitchen at home, you know where the different pots and pans are, you know where you can put your hand, where you can't put your hand. It's the same thing working around the torch. And you sort of get in these ranges of motion that are typical to your process, and you learn to work around where the biggest dangers are.
Gotcha. So I'm the only scaredy cat here then.
Yeah. Well, he burns himself every time he turns on the stove.
No comment.
well, is it a 4,000 degree? Is that what's the heat rating?
That torch flame gets just over 4,000 Fahrenheit. So
it's toasty.
It's not a place you put your finger.
No, definitely not.
Or cook s'mores on.
They cook very quickly.
I am the type of person who lights my s'more on fire, my marshmallow on fire, though. It's just quick that way.
It's a crispy black
marshmallow. That's right.
My torch will take care of that.
Just be in the proximity to the torch.
Insta s'more.
Yeah. You mentioned the intimate space when you're doing the flame working. Can you talk a little bit about some of the skill sets that you need to use, or some of the tools that you use, I guess, to do that? Because it is different from working in the furnace.
Yeah, my most important tools are the torch, of course, but then my hands and my eyes. So much of what we do with molten glass relies on what we're seeing and how we're seeing the glow in the glass. That tells us how hot and how soft it is, where it's hottest, where it's coolest. And of course, your hands, you're sort of feeling the movement of the glass. You need very good dexterity to really control the material. Things want to get out of control very quickly. Probably the hardest thing for people to get used to when they start working with glass is the fact that it is changing the whole time. You sort of touched on that earlier. When we put it in the flame, it's getting hotter and softer. As soon as it comes out, it's getting colder and stiffer. And you're just constantly adapting to the changes in the material. So it keeps you on your toes and keeps you thinking the whole way through.
Yeah, you can't take a lunch break in between. You can't just
You guys
stop.
would be in trouble.
There are moments
sorry,
when you
it's
can
11.
take
It is 11, is it? Oh, yeah.
there are moments when you can take a break. There are many moments when you simply cannot.
Yep.
The material will not forgive that. Right. So, yeah.
Do you have at this point, you've probably done a lot of projects, but is there still this one kind of idea in your head that you've been longing to create at this point? That you could talk about?
I like the way you frame that question, actually, because the question where I thought you were going to go, which I get more often, is what's the favorite piece that you've ever made, which after 29 years is impossible.
Yeah.
There are maybe a few that stick out that I'm particularly proud of, but yeah, that's hard to go down. But I am always most focused on the next idea that I want to develop. And I've had an idea in my head for a while. I love the beauty of rustic old barns and like sort of older American architecture that's falling apart. I love sort of the organic nature of that and the stories behind those things that sort of get your mind focused on what must have happened there. So I do have some thoughts on some new work that will sort of center around that.
So stay tuned.
That sounds yeah.
Cool. So we'll see. It just clicked with me that I have the right tools and techniques for the idea, and sometimes it's a matter of realizing you know how to make that thing,
right.
and you
and
just
going for
then
it,
need
right?
to apply yourself and make it happen. So yeah,
And
For-
time.
I was going to say, for something like what you're planning, do you know how much time investment in those kind of projects it takes? Is it really just vary on the project?
it varies on the project. It definitely does. This one is sort of a wide open new frontier that I suspect the first versions of these are going to take a long time.
That's what I was going to say. You just said versions. How many times do you have to try something before you nail it? You know what I mean?
Depends on how complex it is. It depends on my level of satisfaction. There are plenty of times where I think I'm making elements that are going to get attached into some new object, and I realize I don't really like those elements enough, and I'm going to remake them a few times. So, some projects take weeks, some just click immediately, which is pretty rare. Yeah. But most of them take a fair bit of consideration, so it can take time.
And I mean, imagine you do make adjustments as you start seeing things, because firstly it's an abstract idea in your head, right? But then once it starts to become a tangible thing, then you're like, oh, I got to tweak that, or I got to change that a little. And
very much so.
Always room for improvement, right?
Yeah, well, that's for sure. In my case, not for Eric's case.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at you, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, for me, for sure.
I actually have to pack up a piece tonight that sort of, I won't say it got out of control, but it grew beyond where I had initially intended. I made a menorah for a show at a gallery down in New Orleans, and I had made a Tree of Life menorah for our holiday displays here at the museum. I wanted to sort of play with that design idea a bit, and it just kept growing and growing, more branches, more leaves, and
nice.
Now is going to be quite a task to pack and ship safely. So
you had to hire a pickup.
Somebody else packs it for you, right?
I don't trust anyone else.
Yeah.
What I think is also super fascinating too is, like, Craig, you're an artist. I dabble in photography and I love videography and stuff like that. But we have the save button. And we're pretty much good. But once like you said, there's times where you can take a break. There's times when you can't. But then when you have a finished product, then it's also in terms of, like, we have to be careful with this thing because like we have the accidental delete button digitally, but like we might be able to get that back. You can't get that back.
That can be tricky. The glass that I work with primarily is borosilicate glass. It tolerates temperature change a lot better than most other glasses. That's what laboratory ware is made from. That's what glass cookware is made from. So it tolerates temperature change pretty well. That allows me to make some repairs to things if I need to. That said, not everything is repairable.
Right.
So yeah, once an object is
also
made,
bet you don't want to.
and it's hard doing a repair to get it to look like it did the first time
Right.
around. All of a sudden, you're sort of reverse engineering your process to get things to fit, and it doesn't always work.
Does that become one of those things where, like, because we come across this a lot in editing and things like that, where like we know that it wasn't the same, but the public, like if it's for public display or they're like, they'll never know. It's like, so it's just like, really only we are bothered by it.
You're always your own personal critic, right?
That's right.
And as you're making the thing, you see all
everything.
these things happen that you didn't really want to have happen, but you have to realize it's okay.
Yep.
It still worked out okay. It's structurally sound. It may not have been exactly what you intended, but that's sort of part of the nature of
Still
creating.
can have a great final product.
Or in a positive way, something happens. You're like, oh, that actually looks better than how I pictured it in my head.
That definitely happens too.
That happens to you guys? Shoot.
Does it happen to you, Craig?
Not very much.
He nails it every time.
Yeah, no.
Well, we really appreciate you taking time because we know you're busy, and we look forward to seeing some of those new projects that you're working on. And again, I see you doing the flameworking demonstration often in the museum, so people get the chance to come in. They might get to see you actually at work. But thanks a lot for chatting with us today. We really appreciate it.
You bet. My pleasure. Thank you for coming out to see us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
One of the things I'm trying to do is bring Groovy back, and you definitely are a person who does that on a daily basis. So just want to say thanks and stay groovy.
Will do.
Thanks.